All right, welcome everybody to this episode of Prodigy's Simply Fit podcast. Today, I am joined by Rodger Kobayashi, who's been a member of ours for a little over 2 years, maybe 3 years now. But actually, I know the Kobayashi family for a long time. I actually, at a previous gym I used to work at, I actually trained their sons, and their oldest son, who's now, almost done with college.
He will be done this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I trained. I think I remember like when he was like 8, maybe, or something. Like it was crazy. So I've known them for a while.
I think you did his 8th year
Birthday
old
party.
birthday party. Yeah. It's pretty weird. Pretty crazy.
So it is weird as a coach, definitely sitting back and going, wow, I've known that kid since he was like 8 years old, and now he's graduating college. It's definitely weird. But yeah, Rodgers, one of our consistent members, comes to the gym quite often. He's a busy dad. He owns his own business, and he's found a way to kind of make fitness a priority for himself. And so I wanted to kind of bring him on to talk about his journey and kind of how he got started, and some tips and tricks that he has to kind of keep himself motivated and consistent, and hopefully that those who are listening can pick up on some of those with it as well. So Rodger, I appreciate you joining me. If you don't mind, kind of give a little bit of a background into your story in terms of how you got started with fitness and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me participate. I mean, it was pretty cool. Let's see, the story is actually not that exciting. I started working out probably a little bit later, like in high school. I don't think I ever worked out. And it wasn't probably until I took a business course, actually, that made me realize that working out would be good, which seems kind of odd. But I think I'm generally a kind of a cheap person. You know, I don't like to spend money and I think I always viewed fitness at least when I was younger as more of a cost. You know, it's going to cost me to go to the gym. It's going to cost me time. I'm not going to be able to work. I'm not going to be able to, you know, as a self-employed person, I'm not making money during that time. It's a cost. And it was in that business course that I think it was maybe I tricked myself into thinking, and they made me realize that fitness is more of an investment. It's worth spending the money to do it. It's worth spending the time to do it. And I think I've kind of kept that in the back of my mind all this time, is that now instead of looking at the gym like I need to go 3 times a day or 3 times a week because this is costing me X dollars, it's more like, no, you know, it's an investment. I need to spend this time so I stay healthy. And the other thing that business class also taught me was that if you are not healthy enough to work, you're not gonna. How do you adjust and live to that? And you're just like, you know, you're right. I need to take care of myself. And I don't think I was. I had, you know, maybe a little high blood, but you know, I just wasn't taking care of myself. And so it made me realize I should. And so that really got me going. And I think mentally, just thinking of it as an investment, realizing that there's going to be a cost, but it's worth it, and that it will help out all of the parts of of life in general. I think that's sort of what's kept me going there.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, with the idea that it is an investment, right? Because we get that, when I speak with prospective members all the time, they're like, oh, well, how much does it cost? And I said, I often say, well, how much is your health worth? Like, I mean, It's crazy to think that people don't think twice about spending, as I'm drinking a Starbucks right now, right? They don't think twice about spending $3 to $5 every day on Starbucks, and not realizing that that's overall costing them, X amount of dollars. But when it comes to investing in their health, they're like, oh, well, that's way too much. And it's like, to your second point, you're like, well, in order for you to show up and be the best in every other aspect of your life, like as a business owner, as a dad, as a husband or a wife, whatever it is, like you have to be your best. And then to do that, you have to take care of yourself and invest in your health, and in a way, kind of be selfish in that regard, where you're like, hey, I'm going to go work out 3 days a week for me, to better me, so that way I can be the best person outside of that as possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a big part. I mean, that kind of applies maybe even to food. I think I suddenly realized how important. I'll still drink the beer and drink the scotch and do that stuff. But I think, at times, again, when I was younger, it was like, do you eat celery, which is going to cost you, $5, or do you eat the $2 Big Mac at McDonald's? Like, dude, $2, that's a deal. I'm going that route. And maybe a bad example, but I started to realize that even sometimes eating healthy can be a little bit more costly potentially, but at the same time, there's a lot of value there. I mean, it's important. So So I've kind of adjusted to thinking, maybe it's the whole marketing in my mind. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I've kind of tricked myself into thinking that these things are important.
Yeah. And I think, no, and I think to that point, right, you're right. It's very much the mindset of it, right? Like it's the mindset of, I'm fueling my body, right, correctly in terms of, yeah, okay, I may spend more money on organic produce than I would going to, McDonald's. But at the same time, I mean, if no knock on McDonald's, but the food there is kind of bad. You know what I mean? Like it's not great quality food, and eventually your body's just gonna start to kind of fall apart because you're not fueling it correctly. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm making the investment of proper food that my energy levels are gonna be up. I'm gonna I'm not gonna need that energy drink because my body is fueled correctly, and I have the focus and the energy at 2 p.m. when normally when I was eating McDonald's I wasn't.
Yeah, I think maybe as I've gotten older too, I can now recognize that if I'll still eat McDonald's, and sometimes if I do eat McDonald's and then I try working out, you feel it in your workout. You're like, dude, I'm just tired. It's
Yeah.
not I don't have energy. And then when you eat well during the day and you drink a lot of water and you do all those things and you're working, you're like, hey, that was good. Now I can see it. I can see
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. So as a busy dad, right? You've got four, right? Four
Or
kids. Uh, two are almost grown all the way. You got
yeah.
one leaving high school, one almost about halfway through high school. Like I said, you own your own business. What have you found to be helpful in terms of being consistent with your fitness? Like what tips and tricks, if you could kind of boil it down to maybe three, 2 to 3 tips or tricks that you've kind of stumbled across to help somebody who might be struggling to get on their journey. What have you found to be helpful?
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of let's see, what's the best way to say it? I think it's kind of being flexible because the tips and tricks have changed maybe over the years. Like when they were younger, it was, hey, I'll try, and when I'm coaching them, I will try to run up and down the court with them. Get my exercise that way. It may not be a
Yeah.
lot, but just get a little exercise. More recently now with 2 of the kids being old, they're all older now. I put a little gym inside the garage, so that's easy. I guess for me, it's got to be easy. So
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's got to be easy. So now, if I have half an hour, I can go do TRX for 15 minutes and stretch. Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Part of Prodigy that I really liked is I like the testing. I may be the only one that actually likes testing, but I like the testing. And so now the kids are old enough that, hey guys, hey, let's do testing. And they're
Yeah.
like, let's test it. So I got them going on, and it's not really, some people say who won. I say no, it's not about who won. It's about each person's personal best and are they improving. And so
Yeah.
I think that's sort of one is sort of I guess the goals. Everyone talks about the goals, so continuing to improve, and the ease. Doing something that's easy. For instance, I mean, like I now stand. I used to have a trainer before you. It's like, dude, you're sitting 8 hours a day in front of a computer. That's why you're sore here, here, and here, and you have no mobility here, here, and here. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get rid of that. Now it took a little while to get used to standing for that period of time, but I think it helps. We'll see. Maybe I'll have
Yeah.
bad knees. Maybe I'll have bad knees in a couple of years, but just little things, easy, and to be flexible to be able to get your work in, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I think those would be the tips and tricks.
Yeah, no, those are great. And yeah, we'll kind of go backwards a little bit, but yeah, no, I think the idea of standing, especially now in today, unfortunately, still with kind of the pandemic going on, right? Like everyone's working from home and, you know, I had a podcast, a couple of weeks ago that we recorded where we talked about, the idea that, when people started first working from home and they weren't used to it, they just kind of just did whatever because everyone thought like 2 weeks, right, we're going to be done with this thing in 2 weeks, and soon enough, like we're over a year into this, and people are still working from home, and they may not have developed the best kind of at home like work ergonomics, right? But the idea of setting yourself up and yeah, standing is so much more important for us, right? And we don't realize that we sit way too much, right? And our bodies are meant to move around and things like that. So yeah, the idea of standing can actually, they've shown, helps, standing versus sitting, like your metabolism is totally different, right?
Is
Standing
that
versus
right? Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. No, see that those are the kind of things I like to learn and understand. And, I don't have these conversations with many people. So, so the easy use to, I saw at one point you were promoting, drinking a lot of water, drinking a lot
Yeah.
of water. Yeah, how do I get a gallon? And like, I'll be like, I'll drink 2 cups. I think I drank a gallon today. But so I basically just got a 1 gallon
Yeah.
thing right next to me. It's like, fill it up in the morning. And if there's still stuff in it, I haven't done it.
Right.
So again, it's kind of, because I wouldn't be able to remember how much I actually drank. So this is making it easy is the key, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that goes for a lot of things, right? And I wanted to definitely touch on that point, the idea of making it easy, because really, if we really think about it, right, like fitness is ultimately a habit that we create, right? And the idea that to create a habit, you have to make it easy, right? Like our bodies, don't want to overcome that initial inertia, right? And overcoming that initial inertia is hard, but so we have to make it easy, right? And it's something as simple as getting a full gallon jug and saying, hey, like I filled it up, and I know throughout the day, like when I finish this, I'm done. Like that's my gallon for the day, as opposed to little cups, and I'm like, I don't know how many was I on, how many did I, and so
Right.
the idea that even you had before, like as a young parent, right, maybe coaching kids sports, like how can you squeeze it in? Maybe maybe you practice with the kids, maybe you get around, and that's okay. Like you don't have to dedicate an hour into the gym, 90 minutes into the gym every day. Moving around for 15, 20, 30 minutes is awesome. And if you can squeeze it in and get your kids involved is as a busy parent, like that's something that can be super helpful and beneficial for you if you are struggling, going like, I just can't find the time. Well, do it while they're at practice, or we know a lot of parents who, for example, like they're drop their kids off at practice and then they go walk around while the kids are practicing, right? Like it's you find the time and get creative. And then I like the point you said about kind of being flexible, and I think I kind of liken that to like being like giving yourself grace and realizing that you're not always going to be perfect with it, right? You're not always going to it's not always going to work the way you want it to, but as long as you're flexible and you give yourself grace and go, hey, you know what, I didn't get I only got 5 minutes in today. Well, that 5 minutes was better than nothing, even though you planned on an hour. You were only able to squeeze in 5 minutes. That's okay. That's not that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think mentally now I've kind of got into the idea of every day I'd like to be doing something, whether that's just
Hmm.
stretching or it's because I think before when I was younger it was like I need to work out 2 times a week for an hour, and then it kind of wears and I'm saying, oh shit, I got an hour. Sorry, I got an
Yeah.
hour. I got an hour that it's going to take me 15 minutes to drive there. I got to work out for an hour, 15 minutes back to get there. So it's really 2 hours that
Yeah.
gets eaten up and I don't know if I have, so I'm not going to do it. And so that was hard. That made it hard. But now it's got a little easy. Maybe I'll go for a walk during the phone. With this work at home stuff, I go for a walk
Yeah.
around the block once, and
Yeah.
take the phone call there if I don't have to be in front of the computer. So it's the flexibility piece. But at the same time, I do. A lot of times it's like you do want to schedule it. You do want to have it in your calendar and think, and I do like that too. And then sometimes if I'm able to do that, maybe for 2 weeks, it's like, okay, 9 o'clock. Oh, you kind of get like, dang, 9 o'clock. I need to do something else. I like the flexibility of the change. I guess it
Yeah.
is hard to be consistent all the time at the exact same time. So, anyways, I guess flexibility to me is
Yeah. Well, and I think to that point. So sorry, I'm gonna go back real quick. So don't mind, you can swear all you want.
sorry.
Totally fine. We're not this is a podcast. We're not regulated. I'm just kidding. But to that point of like, I think ultimately, and one thing, that we really push here is the idea of that personalized program. And I think along that lines of some people need that regimented of, I need to get to the gym at 6 p.m. every single day. And then we have other people who are like, well, actually, I like the flexibility of saying, yes, I'm going to work out today, but and I plan on it at 9, but then going, actually, you know what, I can get something done real quick and I'll move it to noon, right? Like having that flexibility. So I think the idea of finding what works for you,
Hmm.
in terms of that aspect of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it works for you. And if you really try to like kind of adhere to that and it doesn't work for you, like if you try to adhere to the idea of like a strict schedule, right, and it just doesn't work, then you're just going to end up frustrated, right? And it's more about like, hey, what works for you? And if it's that flexibility, great, then, and that's what works. As long as you're getting it in, you're getting it in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, because sometimes that does work for me. Always at 9 o'clock, boom, and then it's great. And then sometimes it doesn't. And then I just try not to let that, like you said, not wear on me that I have to change. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, it's gotta go with the flow to some degree.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how have your goals changed from, I know we brought up kind of the progress testing and, yeah, for us, it's something that we're doing here to help our members, kind of gauge progress other than, the weight on the scale, for example. Right. But from kind of when you started and when the kids were younger to now, like how have your goals kind of changed over time?
Hmm. I think let's see. That's a good question. I guess over time, yeah, I don't know if I had goals early on. It was really maybe early on when I started. It was more just check the box. Hey,
Yeah.
I got to the gym. That was the goal. Get to the gym, and that often didn't happen. And then once I understood that it was more something the investment piece of it, then the goal was to make sure that I learned as much as I could about what I could do to stay healthy, whether that was certain exercise. Like, at some point, I I thought, okay, I joined a gym and I did exercises, but I did the same exercises over and over. And then I realized, what, I need to learn more. There's more to this than the bench press and my jumper jacks. And
Right.
so I then invested, and this was kind of weird, on a personal trainer. And again, it's like, dude, I would never have done that before. It's like that costs money, but it taught me new stuff. And I think I think my goal now, and as time has gone, as now that we're talking about it, is that I like the idea of continuing to learn the different parts of um, being healthy. So, for
Yeah.
instance, like when we do the testing. I learn a lot about all the testing and or all the weightlifting and all the technique. I think I'm starting to learn a little bit more about massage, deep tissue massage and kind of the post workout or the recovery portion of it. I think that's helpful. I think even just little supplements, like sort of, I know we're
Mhm.
not doing a commercial here, but like the athletic greens, sometimes if I'll bring it up to you and you recognize, I'm like, oh, Andrew knows that. I'm good. I'm good. So, that just the conversation of, sleep, just
Yeah.
sleeping. Although that might be a function of old age, because I definitely am a lot tired, it's a lot sooner. But I'm sleeping a lot more. And so I think the goals in general have moved. I probably went from no goals, check the box, to let's lift as much as we can and try to get stronger, to now being more of just learn and all the different aspects of health and trying to fit it all in some fashion, maybe not to any extreme, but in some fashion, so I understand. So I'm being as healthy as I can be, but still not having it weigh on my mind what I'm doing. So I'll eat a salad instead of a burger now. I used to eat rice all the time. I don't eat as much rice.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really helps, like, kind of the idea and really getting people to realize that, spending time learning, right? Really, I think really helps kind of with the buy-in of it, right? Like the more you learn about sleep, for example, or the more you learn about proper nutrition, like you're going to be more bought into that idea of I need to get X amount of hours of sleep per night, or I need to sub out, the hamburger for a salad, or, because now you have a better understanding of it, as opposed to just me telling you what to do, or, having somebody else just tell you what to do, right? Like if you spend time, and I think this is helpful for people, if you spend time learning about it, right? Then it helps with the buy-in to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm making this decision because I have the knowledge to make the decision, as opposed to, trainer X just told me to do it, and so that's why I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I think that's actually a really awesome point too, of saying, hey, like focus on learning about health and fitness, not just doing health and fitness.
Yeah, no, and I think that's part of the, like I said, I had a personal trainer, and so it was me and the trainer with these group classes, and you start to hear what other people are doing and what they're thinking, and so you get new ideas into, I didn't think about that. Maybe that is something worth doing, or there's no way in hell I'm doing that.
Yeah.
There's different things. So um, it's good. It's good to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, cool. No, I appreciate your time. Like I said, we'll keep this kind of short and sweet. I know you got to hop on another call in a few. But no, I wanted to get you on and just to kind of have you share your journey a little bit and talk about, as a busy dad and a self-employed individual, how you're able to fit it in, with the hopes that somebody who's listening to this is in the same situation and they're struggling and they can hear what you have to say and kind of take some of those nuggets that you gave, to jumpstart their fitness journey.
Yeah, I hope it helps. Hope it helps because it's really not that hard, but it can feel hard in the beginning. For sure. But,
absolutely. And I think that goes back to the idea of making things easy, right? Like, a book that I enjoyed reading a while back, and I kind of try to thumb through it every once in a while. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
And he talks about the idea that, like making that habit so easy that you can't say no. And if, for example, if you want to create a habit of running every day, right? Make it starting that habit so easy as like, hey, I tied my shoes. Like it's something so simple and so easy where you're like, okay, that's it for today. And then you build on it and then you build on it and you build on it, right? Where I think some people have that adage of, they think it's so like, because it's such a big change, like it's so crazy and so hard where it's like, no, just go for a walk for 5 minutes. Like if that's what it takes to get you moving, great. And then, in a month, 2 months, whatever it is, like now we can talk about going to the gym because we're building up that momentum, of being healthy and fit.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that makes the ease is, and even it's probably finding your shoe before you even tie the shoe. If you know where your shoe is, it's up.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. Awesome, Rodger. Well, I appreciate your time. And I like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to sign off real quick. So if you don't mind hanging on and sign off real quick. So that was it for this episode of Prodigy's Simply Fit podcast. Once again, I am your host, Andrew Hamill, and I was joined by Rodger Kobayashi today. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be more than happy to answer them for you. All right. Hope you guys are having a great day, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.